Right, quick question. When was the last time you actually stretched? I mean properly. Not a quick shoulder roll when you stood up from your desk. Not touching your toes once, realizing you can't quite make it and deciding the whole enterprise really isn't for you. I mean actually stretched. Deliberately stretched. For more than 30 seconds. Now, for a lot of people, the honest answer is school PE. Or maybe that one time you signed up for a yoga class and went twice and never went back. And yet, almost every fitness professional, physiotherapist, and health guideline on the planet recommends stretching regularly. It's on the list alongside eating vegetables and regularly getting your 7 to 9 hours of sleep. We all know we should do it. We almost all don't. Welcome, or welcome back to the new 5 a day. My name's Nick Walters, and this is the second episode of our Be Active pillar. And today, we're making the case for stretching. And I mean actually making it, not just telling you to touch your toes and hoping for the best. We're going to look at what stretching actually does, which of the common claims about it are well supported, and which are, frankly, wishful thinking, and how to build a habit that your body will thank you for years to come. So, let's go. Right. What does stretching actually do for you? The short answer, it improves your flexibility and what they call the range of motion of your joints. That is, it helps your muscles and joints move through a fuller range of motion. And that matters far more than it might sound. Think about the movements you make every day. Reaching for something on a high shelf. Turning to look behind you before reversing the car. Bending to pick something up off the floor. Getting in and out of the bath. None of these are huge athletic feats. But they all depend on joints and muscles that can move freely, without resistance, without that tightening feeling that tells you something's not quite right. And here's the thing, that freedom of movement is something most of us take entirely for granted, until gradually we start to notice we don't quite have it anymore. Flexibility and joint mobility decline naturally with age, and they do so quietly, not dramatically, not all at once, just a slow creep of stiffness that most people don't attribute to anything in particular. Stretching, done regularly, is one of the most effective tools we have for slowing that process down. Now, the research on this is genuinely strong. Multiple, large reviews of the evidence confirm that stretching programs of a few weeks or more produce real, measurable improvements in joint range of motion. This is not a marginal effect. It is one of the best supported findings in the exercise science literature. There's also good evidence that stretching improves gait speed and balance in older adults. Now, this translates in the real world to walking more easily and being less likely to fall, and that is huge. Falls are one of the leading causes of injury and loss of independence in later life. Regular stretching can genuinely help prevent them. Right. Now, before we move on for more of the benefits, I want to address something directly, because it is one of the most widely believed things about stretching, and the research behind it suggests it's not really true. This is the idea that stretching after exercise reduces muscle soreness and speeds up recovery. You know the feeling. You've done a tough workout, you've been for a run, you do a few cool down stretches, and you feel all righteous about it, and you assume this is doing you something useful for your aching legs. But here's what the evidence actually shows. Multiple systematic reviews, the most rigorous form of research, pooling data from dozens of well-designed studies, have found that post-exercise stretching makes essentially no measurable difference to delayed onset muscle soreness. That's the technical term. DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, which just describes that familiar ache that appears about 24 to 48 hours after exercise you're not used to. Stretching, compared to simply resting, does not reduce it. Similarly, the popular belief that pre-exercise stretching prevents injuries is not well supported in a general population. Research going back more than 20 years has found no meaningful reduction in injury risk from pre-activity stretching in general training population. Now, a few things to say about this. First, it doesn't mean post-exercise stretching is pointless. It can be a really pleasant way to wind down. It helps you maintain the flexibility you're building, but so there's no reason to stop doing it. And second, the fact that it doesn't reduce soreness is not a reason not to stretch. The benefits of stretching, as we just mentioned, improve flexibility, better movement, healthier aging. These are all real. It's just that, well, they come from a consistent, regular practice, not from just tagging a few minutes on at the end of a weekly workout. Now, third, if you want to actually help your body recover from exercise, the evidence-based toolkit is rather less exotic than most of us would like. Sleep, sensible training loads, hydration, appropriate, adequate nutrition. It's not glamorous, but that's how you reduce the muscle aches. Now, here's something I didn't expect when I started looking into the research for this episode. There is emerging evidence that regular stretching may also have modest benefits for your cardiovascular health, and specifically for your arteries. Now, before we go any further, a quick word on arteries. Your arteries are not just passive fixed tubes carrying blood around the body. They're elastic. They expand and contract with every heartbeat. And as we age, just like the rest of us, they tend to stiffen. Stiffer arteries mean the heart has to work harder to push blood through them, which over time is not ideal for cardiovascular health. A 2020 meta-analysis, a large synthesis of available research, found that regular stretching programs reduced arterial stiffness and lowered resting blood pressure in middle-aged and older adults. The proposed mechanism is that the mechanical stretching of large muscle groups also loads the blood vessels running through them and around them, stimulating the inner lining of those vessels to produce compounds that improve their elasticity over time. Now, I want to be careful about how I frame this. The study numbers are relatively small. The evidence is still mixed in places, and the benefits typically take months of consistent practice to emerge, and they appear to reverse when the practice stops. This is not a reason to cancel your cardio sessions and stretch instead, but it is a genuinely interesting finding. It suggests that the benefits of stretching may extend beyond the musculoskeletal, beyond just muscles and joints, into the vascular system. And for a practice that takes about 5 minutes 3 or 4 times a week and requires no equipment, that's a pretty compelling return. Something that often comes up when people talk about stretching is the sense of calm it produces. And I think this is worth taking seriously, while also being honest about what the research does and doesn't say. Many people notice that slow, deliberate stretching, especially when paired with steady breathing, produces a feeling of settling, a quieting, a brief pause from whatever else is happening. And that is a real thing. It is consistent with what attention to the body, slow movement, and controlled breathing tends to do to the nervous system. However, and this is important, the strong research evidence for stretching and mental health actually comes from broader practices. Yoga, for example, has a robust body of evidence for reducing anxiety across multiple large reviews. Progressive muscle relaxation, a technique that involves systematically tensing and releasing certain muscle groups, has excellent evidence for stress and anxiety reduction. Both of these involve stretching, but they also involve breathwork and mindfulness, and oftentimes community as well. The research doesn't currently allow us to say with confidence that it's the stretching component specifically that's driving the mental health benefit. What I would say is this: if you stretch slowly, breathe deliberately, and pay attention to how your body feels for 5 minutes, that is a form of mindfulness practice in itself, even if nobody calls it that. And the effects of that brief pause, especially in a busy day, are very real, even if they are difficult to quantify. Stretching before bed, for example, can be a useful wind-down signal, a quiet transition from the pace of the day to something slower. Not a replacement for other good sleep habits, but a reasonable complement to them. The honest framing is: stretching, done calmly and with attention, is not a mental health intervention in the clinical sense, but as a small, daily moment of calm, it has real value. Right, let's get to the practical part, because one thing that confuses a lot of people about stretching is the different types. And there's actually a reasonably clear answer here about which is the best for what purpose. Now, the two main types you'll encounter are static stretching and dynamic stretching. Let me explain them both. Static stretching is what most people think of when they think of stretching. You move into a position, say reaching towards your toes or pulling your knee up to your chest, and you hold it 15 seconds, 30 seconds, up to a minute. That sustained hold is what produces the longest lasting improvements in flexibility, which is the backbone of any serious flexibility program. Dynamic stretching is different. Instead of holding, you move. Controlled leg swings, arm circles, hip rotations, walking lunges. You're moving through a range of motion repeatedly rather than holding a position. Dynamic stretching is a good warm-up before exercise or physical activity. It increases the blood flow and prepares the joints for movement without the small performance drawbacks of prolonged static holds. So here's the practical rule of thumb. Before exercise, think about some dynamic stretching. A few minutes of controlled, gentle movement to wake up the joints and get the blood flowing. After exercise, or as part of a standalone flexibility practice, static stretching. Hold each position for 15 to 60 seconds. Breathe through it. Don't force it. There is a third type, PNF stretching, which stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. That's easy for you to say. Now, this produces the largest flexibility gains of all and is used extensively in physiotherapy and elite sports, but it typically requires a partner or therapist to do properly, so it's less relevant for most people's daily practice. So for the purposes of building a regular habit, static stretching is your friend. It's simple, it's effective, and you can do it in your living room while watching Ted Lasso. So, you want to stretch more regularly. What does that actually look like? First, you do not need a lot of time. Health guidance suggests flexibility work for your major muscle groups 2 to 3 times a week. Now that is a sensible target. Many people benefit from a short session most days, but if you're starting from scratch, 2 or 3 times a week is plenty, and it's achievable. And how long should each session be? Again, the guidance is 5 to 10 minutes. That should be enough to make a meaningful difference to how your body feels. The key is consistently over time, not heroic individual sessions. The main areas to focus on are the ones that tend to tighten up most in modern life. Your neck and shoulders, your chest, particularly if you work at a desk, your lower back and hips, your hamstrings, your calves, and your ankles. A few minutes across those regions done regularly will go a long way. Now, 5 practical tips that will help make this a habit that sticks. And remember, as always, you don't have to choose them all. Choose the ones that work for you. Number 1, attach it to something you already do. This is the single most reliable habit building technique there is. Stretch after your morning shower while the bathroom is still warm. Stretch while the kettle boils. Stretch after an evening walk or before going to bed. The habit you build onto an existing routine is the habit that survives. Number 2, start embarrassingly small. And I mean this. 5 minutes will feel like nothing, but 5 minutes of stretching 3 or 4 days a week, consistently over months, produces real, measurable changes in how your body moves. Don't set some big ambitious target and fail to meet it. Set a modest target and exceed it. 3, focus on what's tight, not everything. You don't need to stretch every muscle group in every session. Notice where your body feels restricted, where the tension lives, and work there. It's more useful and more sustainable than working through a complete checklist. Number 4, pair it with controlled breathing. This sounds like a small thing, but it makes a significant difference. Slow, deliberate exhalations help your nervous system relax into the stretch, allow you to ease a little further into the position, and just make the whole experience more restorative. Breathe in, breathe out slowly, and let your body settle. Then number 5, let the result guide you, not the number on a timer or the distance to your toes. How does your body feel? Is that familiar tightness easing? Are movements that felt restricted becoming a little freer? Are you waking up feeling a little less stiff? Those are the real measures. Reaching your toes, that will follow eventually. So be active is pillar 3 of the new 5 a day. And stretching sits right at the heart of what this pillar is all about. It's not performance, it's not suffering, it's not the burning sensation of having pushed yourself to some limit. Just keeping your body capable, comfortable, moving freely through the life that you're living. 3 things to take from today. Number 1, the evidence for stretching, improving flexibility and joint mobility is strong. That means it genuinely works for what most people need it for. Done regularly, it will make movement feel easier, especially as you age. Number 2, the recovery claims are overstated. Stretching after exercise feels nice, but it does not measurably reduce soreness or prevent injury. Do it anyway if you enjoy it, but just know the real benefits come from consistency over time, not from 10 minutes after a workout. Number 3, you don't need much. 2 or 3 times a week, 5 to 10 minutes each time, focusing on the main areas that feel tight. Attach it to something you already do and breathe through it. That's it. That's the whole instruction. If you want the deeper evidence, the mechanisms, the research, what the systematic reviews actually show, there's a companion deep dive post on the website at www.new5aday.com. That's the number 5, along with the full citations list for today's episode. Next episode, we're going to go back to pillar 4, me time, and we're going to be looking at the restorative power of bringing a bit of music into your daily routine. If today's been useful, please do like, follow, and share. It's the best thing you can do at this stage, and it's how new listeners are going to find us. So until next time, take care, keep moving,